Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha TV. You're watching Discussion today with me, Tina Jha. In a bid to tighten security of communications network, the Cabinet Committee on Security on Wednesday announced the National Security Directive on Telecommunications sector. Now, under the provisions of the new directive, in order to maintain integrity of the supply chain, security, and to discourage insecure equipment in the network, the government will declare a list of trusted sources and trusted products for the benefit of telecom service providers. The methodology to designate trusted products will be devised by the designated authority, in this case, the National Cyber Security Coordinator. Telecom service providers will be required to connect new devices that are designated trusted products, and the list of the trusted source and products will be decided based on approval of a committee which will be headed by the Deputy National Security Advisor. In addition, there will also be a list of designated sources from whom no procurement can be done. So on Discussion today, we will analyze the National Security Directive on Telecom and how will the move strengthen national security. Joining me on the program are two distinguished panelists. Let me introduce them to you. We are joined by Mr. Ram Narayan, former Senior DDG, Department of Telecom, Ministry of Communications, and Mr. Subimal Bhattacharjee, Cyber Technology Expert. Welcome, gentlemen, on this edition of Discussion today. Mr. Narayan, if I could begin the program with your views on the new directive, on the National Security Directive on Telecommunication. Also explain to us what is the need and purpose for the new guidelines for the telecom service providers at this time.
The new Telecom Security Directive, it is an overdue. The telecom is a super infrastructure. All other infrastructure of the economy depend on the telecom these days. And if there is any disruption into the telecom network, it is going to affect all the infrastructure and the total economy of the country.
Yes.
So therefore, it is essential the telecom network must be highly secure. We are talking about digital society. In fact, we should be talking about secure digital society. And in that direction, this directive is a timely decision by the government. It's a bold decision. It should have been taken much earlier, but now it has been taken. It is good. The one aspect is the disruption in the telecom network. The other aspect in the telecom network is a lot of information and data flows through the telecom network and it resides in the telecom network. And these days, the sophisticated telecom equipment, there is a possibility of this data going to the enemical countries or in the hands of the elements or the countries where it is not desired. So therefore, we cannot afford to buy any equipment which is not a trusted source. And that is why this directive is there.
Okay, Subimal Bhattacharjee, how significant will this move be in blunting the cyber attacks, considering India is among the top 3 countries facing cyber attacks in the world?
I think, as Mr. Narayan has very clearly explained, this whole effort is, again, I would say, another step forward in terms of securing our cyberspace for the nation. One of the first steps that the government took in the last few months, you've seen in 3 rounds, was banning a lot of the Chinese apps. And now, when you see, this whole step being taken today, as the cabinet has cleared, this is the next step. Now, this whole step of looking at the infrastructure of the telecom networks is a very, very important step. Even if you look at the preferential market access policy of 2012 for the telecom sector, that also had a similar essence that, you needed to ensure that you didn't allow equipments into the network that bugged and picked up information, picked up sensitive data, took it to enemical nations, and then they are used against the country. But if you look at the current government's effort, they have been multiplied many times, and across the whole sectors, you would see a much more focus on security. Now, with that, your point around how does that impact cybersecurity, definitely one of the biggest points of leaks or the avenues by which cyber attacks today happen are via these bugs, via the data theft. All of that happen through the telecom network. So unless and until you are sure what products are going into the network, unless and until you ensure that people with doubtful credentials are absolutely blocked right at the beginning, you would not be able to completely control the whole phenomena. Hence, I think this step is good. Now a committee under the Deputy NSA will look into all these things in a far much focused manner. And I think the timing, as Mr. Narayan has also said, is very right. We cannot afford everyone to be given an access that becomes detrimental to national security interests.
Surely. Mr. Narayan, so in that aspect, how is going to be implemented? How will the sources be identified as trusted sources? What will be the criteria for doing so?
Yeah, in this case, there are two parts to this directive. One is about the trusted sources and another is about the trusted devices. As far as the sources are concerned, these will be defined based on the intelligence inputs and the strategic security reasons of the country. And this is an exercise which can be done in a couple of months. It is a paper kind of exercise. And the other part, as far as the trusted devices are concerned, it is a long drawn process. Here, a lot of capital will have to be committed, time has to be committed, and means the government has to put in a lot of efforts to create a system by which we make sure that only trusted devices are put into the network. For that, we may have to have our own test labs, we may have to upgrade them and commit a lot of resources. And for the time being, as long as we have not done it, maybe such things will have to be got done from other countries where we have the trust, which are not in the which don't fall into the category of designated sources, which will be in the banned category.
Okay. Also, sir, this was the security aspect that we spoke about and how it's going to be implemented. If we look at it from industry's point of view, how is this decision going to impact the telecom service providers?
I think as far as the telecom service providers are concerned, they always know that they have to operate in a country within the laws and the directives that the government set from time to time. Now, here in this case, this is not something that all of a sudden something has come. Already for ever since the PMLA 2012 policy has happened, many of the countries and many of the countries that have their equipments in our system have been aware of where some of our security concerns lay, and most of the companies and their networks and all, they have tried to be able to satisfy the government about their sensitivity to our concerns. So I think on the larger aspect, this issue is there. The second aspect that comes in is that we have the right to decide what we want and what we don't want. We cannot knowingly, we won't inject any disease in our body. So that's how the whole thing works. And thirdly, here even in today's cabinet decision and all, no directive has been given in any way, or a kind of signal has been given that whatever equipments are already there that have been put, they have to be withdrawn tomorrow itself. It would generally apply prospectively, and over the years, even if you see, the thrust of this government is also to help in building the electronic manufacturing sector in the country. Today already a lot of devices are being manufactured, a lot of switches are being manufactured. As Mr. Narayan had also mentioned earlier, that even if we require to do some level of activities in some trusted, friendly countries, so for example, the hardening of the routers and the servers, the blackening, all of this stuff, there are enough ways in which we can have capacity built in the country, and whatever we already have, we utilize them. There is no reason why the local manufacturing sector cannot be able to be delivering what would require. And this is a gradual, you can say, steps that would be taken by and large, where everywhere you try and see that we have the trust, and in that trust, as much as the local devices get in, they get in. And besides that, whatever foreign elements are there, they are either handled, by Indian engineers and all, as the case is. And of course, whoever's products gets in, they are trusted and defined as trusted as the committee will define.
Mr. Narayan, do you agree that the move is not just in the interest of the national security, but also a big push towards a self-reliant India, especially in the telecom sector, if we talk about?
Yeah, actually, both these issues are linked together. The security, a nation's security, automatically get enhanced when you get when you become self-dependent. When you are dependent on other on any aspect of the economy, that the security gets jeopardized, and it is more so in case of the telecom. And I fully agree with Bhattacharya ji. See, the issue is sometimes the argument that the equipment will start costing little more. We should not bother about it, because with such a directive coming, probably 80% of the world still will be open. Maybe only some 10 to 20% of the world will be barred, which will be falling into the designated sources. And that, say for example, China, we don't know how come they are giving the equipment so cheap. Maybe their governments are subsidizing. Maybe they have such kind of things. So this 10-20% increase of the equipment, even if it happens, for security reasons, for the country's sake, I think we should take that bite.
Exactly. So how we are going to take that bite is something that we'll all have to wait and watch. Mr. Bhattacharya, when we speak of China, although this directive does not specifically target any particular country, but do you see it as an economic offensive against China in particular?
So, that's a kind of a guess that anyone would try to make, because, many of the apps, again, when the apps were banned, they were never named as, China apps. But we have seen that, most of these apps were, China corporations which own those apps. So similarly here, the concerns around Huawei across the world in 5G networks or even in existing network is already a security concern. So, that logically many people would try to decipher, but I would think that the government is not only looking at, or trying to do something like this only from a China angle. I don't think that the larger issue of the government is a very holistic approach to ensure that your networks are secure, you know what goes in your network, and at the same time, you try and ensure that a lot of stuff from your domestic market gets into the network. So in that, if Chinese companies with whatever backdoor arrangements they have, as Mr. Narayan has also mentioned about how they come with prices that nobody else can match. So these are some of the things that will definitely weigh against them, but nowhere it is anyway directed towards China. I think we are trying to solve our own problem, tackle our own issue, build ourselves a far much more resilient network. That's the main motto.
But you would agree that from the strategic point of view, if you see, Mr. Narayan, it's a very bold move coming from the government. Could it also impact the rollout of 5G in the times to come?
Definitely, it is a very bold move. And as I stated earlier, it was overdue and it has to be taken at some time or the other.
Yes.
As far as the rollout of the 5G is concerned, because there are many other equipment vendors also. It's not only the Chinese equipment vendors. Firstly, it is not the Chinese specifically have been banned. We don't know. It will depend on the intelligence inputs and, as I stated, on the strategic security reasons. So whether the China will be banned or not, we don't know. But that will be come only when the committee decides about it.
Okay.
But there are other equipment manufacturers, and Indian companies are also, I understand, are ready to make the 5G equipment. And the second part, which is not touched upon, I like to touch upon this. we should not create so much hype about the delay in the 5G. Say, the 5G, what is 5G? 5G is going to give you a very broad bandwidth. That bandwidth cannot be given unless you have a sound backhaul. As on date, with the telecom service providers, most of the towers are connected with microwave. They are not fiber linked. As long as that backhaul is not there, 5G facilities we will not be able to avail. And 4G facilities are good enough as on date to provide the services. Even if it get delayed by a few months 5G, we should not create a furor about that, considering the importance of the national security.
Okay.
Because that 5G is not going to, only for the namesake we may say that we are the first country, second country or fourth country in 5G, but it is not going to make difference if we get delayed by a couple of months. Don't worry about that.
Mr. Bhattacharya, would you like to respond to that? That delay in 5G should not be made into a big deal?
I would agree with Mr. Narayan completely. You see, even if you look at the cabinet decision earlier this month about implementing the PM WANI, which would actually ensure a far much more equitable and qualitative availability of 4G, and at the same time under Digital India, the BharatNet, and the optical fiber network that is going to all the 6 lakhs villages in the country. And these are some of the steps that are consolidating our quality, availability of the infrastructure. In all of that, if you are able to deliver 4G connectivity also optimally to people around, I think, that's good enough, and 5G will roll out. You see, some of these things are left to the market, and as and when the operators who are going to be trying to participate in the 5G network they are ready, the government rolls out its plans and everything, it's good enough. But I don't think a constrained scenario is in any way going to happen, because, we are maybe not one of the front runners when the 5G technology starts. Almost everywhere in the world, it is still at a very experimental stage.
Mr. Narayan, when we talk about strengthening the domestic framework and, sort of giving a preferential treatment to the domestic companies when we want to strengthen the telecom sector, what more needs to be done to sort of also enhance the research and development sector in terms of technology in our country?
Yes, that is a very important question. Instead of giving a direct answer to you, I'll just give you some statistics. Why employ 10,000 engineers, R&D engineers? We in CDOT have only 700 staff, total staff. Maybe engineers are only 400. The R&D spend of Hawaii is $4.7 billion. Our R&D spend is $0.017 billion in CDOT. So that is the kind of the difference. And then we say we are not able to develop any ecosystem, or we are not able to develop any technology. We need to invest heavily in these technologies if we have to compete in this world. Because like the telecom service sector, where a lot of investment is required, similarly in manufacturing and in R&D also, a lot of investment and resources are required, committed resources are required. So we must upgrade it. The government must make a budget for R&D, a lot of budget for R&D and for manufacturing, and exercise full force to enhance manufacturing and R&D in the country. It is necessary. It is the time they should do it.
Would you like to add, are there any more challenges? What else needs to be done by the government in order to make India Atmanirbhar in the telecom sector?
Yes, there's few things. The other thing what the government need to do is enabling environment. Although this government has taken a lot of steps for making an enabling environment. For example, taxes have been reduced, incentives are being given to the startups, kind of things. But still, in the pockets, particularly which are related to the states, a lot of inhibitions are there, a lot of inspectors still is there, where people feel that they don't want to commit a lot of capital into this. Similarly, land order situation has also to be improved. Say, for example, recently we have seen in Chennai, one company was ransacked. So these kind of things send a signal to the investors that they take a very gradual kind of approach towards India. Like the China, they invested heavily. They invest in India, but they are investing in parts. They are investing in little trenches. Whereas in the telecom, you need to invest heavily if you want to become world competitive.
Okay, Mr. Bhattacharjee, besides investment and strengthening resources, anything else that needs to be promoted if we are to make India self-reliant in the telecom sector?
I think India has always had a compelling story for the last 3 decades about the way in which our IT and IT-enabled services companies have worked, the extent of the exports that have been generated. Despite not having a specific data protection law, you have had those service level agreements that are quite stringent with all the Fortune 500 companies that the Indian companies have done. So that track record itself is a story that is available to tell that, that we as a nation, we know how to deal with data protection. We know how to take care of the security of the data. And then even if you see during the time of the pandemic, there were so many investments that have come in the country from some of the largest, tech giants. Whether it's Facebook or Amazon, you have seen the deals they have done with Zio during that period. Nowhere in the world it has happened. So there is confidence about India as far as this digital sector is concerned. Of course, we are today at 75 crores connected people on the internet, and there is still almost 45% more people to be connected. So there is a huge market to be tapped. Besides the market, so many other opportunities remain in terms of taking care of the digital divide, creating opportunities for people in far-flung areas. So I think these are some of the things we lay before the world. The investments are definitely going to be there, and I would agree with Mr. Narayan again that we have to really look at R&D activity within the country. We cannot depend upon the tech giants investing their own money all the time. Somewhere, some monoliths also have to come up in the country based on the investments. And then I think the thinking in the government right now is always to support some of this kind of initiative. So even if it means, taking some portion of the DRDO budget also to some extent of telecom research and getting it done to the private sector, we must experiment that, because some of the best brains can really think of doing such things for the country. So that whole ecosystem of being able to rise up to the nation's requirement automatically sends a signal that the availability of commercial and the economic aspects in the whole business sector also can be served. And then it becomes a win-win kind of a situation. And that has to be fostered in the next, few years by the government, as it is doing right now in the right direction.
Definitely. So having said that, with that, I'll have to call it a wrap on this edition of Discussion Today. Thank you, Mr. Ram Narayan and Subimal Bhattacharjee, for joining me on the program and sharing your perspective on the subject with us and our viewers. Pleasure having you on the program. So that's it from us on this edition of Discussion Today. We'll be back same time tomorrow now with another topic and a different set of panelists to discuss another topic of current significance. Just in case you missed the television broadcast of our program, you can also watch it on YouTube, and you can also send us your feedback and suggestions as well. Thank you very much for your time.